I was at the car dealership not too long ago having my car serviced, and I had to wait in the lounge area for quite a while. I knew I was going to have to wait for about 90 minutes, so I came prepared. I brought my book and my bag, and as I do, and to make a long story short, I was standing in the lounge area of the car dealership while my car was being worked on, and I was reading my book, minding my own business as I do, and a gentleman who was seated on the love seat in the lounge area was staring at me for quite a while before he finally asked me, "Why are you standing?" And I looked at him and I said, "Why are you sitting?" And the expression on his face was one of, he looked to be, now I have trouble with this, admittedly, but to me, he definitely was not pleased nor amused. It was not a positive interaction. I apparently, very evidently, made him feel very uncomfortable. His facial expression looked as if he was offended, frankly. So this illustrates something that very unfortunately is not an uncommon, infrequent occurrence for me. These awkward encounters. And by awkward, I mean that I'm not bothered, but I make other people inadvertently feel uncomfortable. So I never want to do that because that's never my intention. However, for factors mostly, I would say, connected to my Asperger's disorder syndrome, I do possess this coldness or this lack of emotive expression, this outward expression. In other words, my outside doesn't match my internal environment. So it isn't that I don't feel. I have empathy. This is a common misconception about people with autism, is that we lack empathy. That's absolutely incorrect because I feel so much. I feel very intensely. And I've talked at great length with my mother about this, and she has reassured me that ever since I was a child, I was this way, that my disposition is just this way. I digress. So after this incident, I was visiting my parents, and I told this story to my parents, and my father lovingly explained to me that, "Jennifer, most people would have reacted in a similar fashion as this gentleman did." In other words, it would have been a common reaction. Of course, for me, I didn't even hesitate because it made logical sense when he asked me why I was standing. It made rational and logical sense to ask him why he was sitting. So it just came out of my mouth. I have an unfiltered, truthful communication style. That's a deficit for sure, because the problem, again, although there are many strengths to truth telling, there are many problems that come along with being brutally honest in my life. And I can think of countless examples, especially in my youth, when my honesty has not come into favorable consequences for me socially, because it creates friction. So again, it makes other people, I want to emphasize this, as the person with ASD, I don't feel uncomfortable. I'm not bothered by it. But as I've gotten older and more familiar, and of course with more practice socially, as I'm trying to increase my social intelligence through practice, because I know this is a deficit of mine, I have come to definitely realize and recognize and acknowledge and accept and embrace, but try to improve at the same time, the fact that it's not always beneficial, especially in social settings, to tell the truth. So I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place, because that's my default, is that truth just simplifies life. So that's my default setting. It's also my North Star. Like, the way I feel about myself when I'm by myself, my personal integrity is the most important thing to me in the universe. So I don't compromise that. But my unrelenting adherence to telling the truth, again, comes with these consequences that are often unforeseen and make other people feel uncomfortable. So my point is, I never want to make others feel uncomfortable, especially if I can help it. So knowing all this, and my dad lovingly explained to me that, a lot of people will receive that as if I'm trying to be a smart ASS. And again, that was not my intention whatsoever. So I'm working on it. I'm definitely working on it because I want to, I would love to be one of these people who is more smooth in socializing. It doesn't come naturally to me. I have to cognitively navigate it, and intellectually I understand it, much like empathy. Intellectually, I comprehend it totally. And then once I understand and I put myself in other people's shoes, then I'm completely and wholly empathetic. But people like myself, what we lack is this affective empathy. And so that's where the flat affect effect comes into play, the restricted facial expression, the low incidence of forehead and eyebrow movement, and these things that come naturally to most people, to neurotypical people, I should say, they are constricted and restricted in people who are, especially people with Asperger's and ASD. They've actually done a study on this, restricted facial expression, particularly in the forehead and the eyebrows of autistic people. And I was talking to my mother about this, and she said, "That's you." And I said, "I know, that's me." And she's like, "Oh, maybe that's why you're aging so gracefully, because you don't wrinkle your face. So your face doesn't have a whole lot of opportunity to get like stuck like that." So that's something, food for thought. I thought, probably, it's just my personality. I'm not going to be artificial and fake anything, but particularly my facial movement. It's just my personality. And turns out researchers have studied this in ASD individuals. So I felt my ego felt somewhat validated by that research, because I thought, okay, it's not just my imagination. I'm not suppressing the movement, to be clear. I'm not suppressing anything. It's just, again, it doesn't come inherently to me. And so I'm not going to move my face artificially. But yeah, I often find that I lack body language and I lack this facial expression when I think about the scenario again and I imagine it retrospectively. When I reflect on it after the fact, the problem is, this is the problem, is that I often realize what the smooth thing would have been to do after the event. But in the moment, I'm unable to manage my unfiltered speech, apparently. Again, I'm working on it. I am conscious of it. I am aware of it. I'm trying to find a balance between embracing my eccentricities that come along with being on the autism spectrum, and also recognizing how it may affect others around me, especially when it affects people in a negative way. I would love if people can walk away from an interaction with me feeling positive. Obviously, that would be lovely, because again, my disposition and internally, I always want the best for people. I'm a kind, loving, tender person. I'm very sensitive, so I never wish harm on anyone, especially in my speech. I never want to inflict anything negative on an unassuming person, especially. So I shall, noted. It's noted. What do you think about this?